Tēnā koutou, te whānau o Auckland Unitarians. Tēnā koutou nā manuhiri. No mai hari mai, ki tēnei whare karakia o te atua. Ko John DiLeo toko ingoa. No reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Good morning. Welcome everyone from near and far to this physical space made sacred by Auckland Unitarians since 1901, as well as to our virtual sanctuary. Welcome also to those watching the recording of this service at a later time. My name is John DiLeo, and I'll be leading our service today. The words of welcome I've selected are by Rachel Rott. Welcome, you questioners, seekers of truth with a capital T, pilgrims longing for sanctuary, travelers needing harbor from the storm. Welcome, those who are holding on by a thread, determined breakers of the chains of loneliness and isolation. You pushed through your fear because something told you that you deserve to belong. Welcome home. Welcome those who braid ropes again and again. You've been there for our siblings who are just hanging on. You gave them a hand into community and told them they could rest here. Welcome, you who seek spiritual and religious community for your children and grandchildren. You entrust your young people here, and we as a community commit to nurture and respect them. Welcome, children and youth. You give us the gift of your wisdom, your joy, your curiosity, and your trust that we will hold all of it safe. Welcome. Welcome home. How do we make this tender place wider? How do we stretch into a bolder welcome, a radical generosity of the heart? Can we imagine ourselves the stewards and ushers, not only into this space, but into our circle of belonging? Can we commit and recommit to being accountable to one another as an anti-racist, anti-oppressive community that centers marginalized voices, that listens to those voices, especially when what they are saying is hard to hear? Can we be willing to change? When we break our agreements with one another, can we offer amends? Can we be humble and generous? There is grace enough here. There is in this place the possibility of healing, of repair, of making things right, within ourselves, between us, and with the wider world. There is in this place possibility. Welcome home. My opening words are a selection by Leslie Takahashi. To worship means to consider that which has worth. Today we consider with gratitude the many gifts of this community, the opportunity to be affirmed in who we are and to offer that affirmation to others, the chance to stand up together to help remake the world in the ideal of justice, the freedom to choose one's own path to truth and to learn from the travelogues of others, the space to expand one's own spirit and to reconnect after busy or humdrum weeks with the sustaining truths of one's life. Regular reminders that we must see our world through the lens of love. And the aspiration to consider all life as precious, for all of it is made of stardust. How can it not be wondrous? So this morning, let's welcome all these gifts with gratitude, for they have been paid for with many currencies. The blood of the martyrs who died so that we can be free in our religion. The sweat of those who persisted in justice's name against hostility and adversity. The tears of those who struggled to build better lives for those in this life. The questions of our children as they understand the world anew and offer their understanding to us as a fresh lens. The laughter and joy of those giddy with the embrace of community. The dollars and cents of those who gave what they could, and then stretched a little more. The infinite small acts of service that make the parts greater than the whole, done by those who knew themselves in sympathy with our purposes. So today we consider with gratitude and humility what it means to pay forward what has been paid forward for us. And now with all of this, let us enter into worship with gladness in our hearts. All right, this morning, Larry has volunteered to light the chalice. We light our chalice as a symbol of gratitude as we celebrate the abundance of our lives together. In this sanctuary, we harvest bushels of strength for one another and offer our crop with the hands of compassion and generosity. In the authentic and gentle manner of our connections, we cultivate a simple sweetness to brighten our spirits. May we be grateful for the ways we nourish and uplift each other, for it is the sharing of this hallowed time together that sustains us. Please now join me in affirming the covenant of our congregation. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is the sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony. Thus do we covenant with each other and with our God. This morning for my reading, I'm going to read a portion of a fairly well-known passage of New Testament scripture, the parable of the talents, found in the book of Matthew, chapter 25. A man, going on a journey, summoned his slaves and entrusted his property to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. The one who had received the 5 talents went off at once and traded with them and made 5 more talents. In the same way, the one who had the 2 talents made 2 more talents. But the one who had received the 1 talent went off and dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those slaves came and settled accounts with them. Then the one who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 more talents and saying, Master, you handed over to me 5 talents. See, I have made 5 more talents. His master said to him, Well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy in a few things, and I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. And the one with the 2 talents also came forward, saying, Master, you handed over to me 2 talents. See, I have made 2 more talents. His master said to him, Well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. Then the one who had received the 1 talent also came forward, saying, Master, I knew that you were a harsh man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you did not scatter seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours. But his master replied, You wicked and lazy slave. You knew, did you, that I reap where I did not sow and gather where I did not scatter? Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and on my return I would have received what was my own with interest. If you saw the weekly newsletter, you saw what I had said that the title of my talk was going to be, and in case you hadn't seen that, you probably have picked up on the fact that I'm going to be talking about stewardship. After today's service, we'll be holding our annual general meeting. In 3 weeks, Jonathan Mason will be leading our service and kicking off our annual pledge drive. The fact these events were coming up got me thinking about the church's finances, and more particularly about what we're doing with what we have and what our members give. At this afternoon's AGM, we'll hear the financial report for last financial year from our treasurer. I fully expect that, as in previous years, he'll be reporting that the majority of our contribution income is received from a small proportion of our membership who give $1,000 or more each year, while a larger number give something less, and still others make no documented contributions at all. As an aside, For those of you who contribute significantly and anonymously by placing cash in the Koha basket or through some other means, thank you. I'm not dismissing that, we just don't document it. Throughout the many Christian religions, there's a strong emphasis on the tithe, giving a 1/10 portion of your time, talent, and treasure to the Big C church. Within the Unitarian Universalist faith, a common ask is that we give 5% to our home congregation and 5% to worthy causes in the broader community. UUs are statistically the highest income earning faith group, while simultaneously being, quote, the faith group that gives least to our own churches, falling well short of even the 5% mark. Now notice that is statistically globally. So I'm not saying anything specifically about this congregation because I don't even know. In a sermon she gave in 2015, UUA's Congregational Giving Director, Reverend Vale Weller, asks, why is that? If we gave of our resources at the level that the Baptists, Mormons, Episcopalians, or Jews do, we would be able to serve the community in amazing ways. It is not my intention to browbeat you into giving more. Instead, I want to shift our focus to why we don't already give more, and what would make each of us want to change that. In his award-winning sermon in 2012, Reverend Jay Leach raised some highly relevant points. Some suggest instead that our common denominator, a low one indeed, may be the collective intoning of a song with the repeated refrain, "What's in it for me?" It is a monotonic chorus skipping over the notes do and re and landing repeatedly on the solitary sound of that one note, me, 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 me. He later argues, my contention today to you, my co-religionists, is this. The most radical, controversial, countercultural message we offer in our particular liberal religion may not be about marriage equality or economic justice or environmental activism or any other of our social stances, as important as those are. Our most radical, controversial, countercultural message just may be our affirmation that each of us, every single individual one of us, is a part of an interdependent web of all existence. To make such an affirmation with full integrity suggests that what's in it for me is directly, inextricably, completely entwined in what's in it for us. If the web of existence of which we are a part truly is interdependent, then there is really only the common good. End quote. As a group, I believe we're keenly aware of the interconnectedness of the world in which we live. Recent and current events serve as constant reminders of just how dependent we are on what's going on around the country and the world. Various shortages of fresh produce because flooding around the North Island destroyed entire crops. Shockingly high petrol prices because there's an ongoing war in Ukraine. Continued economic strain and uncertainty because the United States is a political dumpster fire. It's all connected, and we all feel it daily. So if we know we're all dependent on one another, and that the common good is what really matters, why aren't we as a group more generous in our giving? I have one idea. Perhaps the question many of us are asking ourselves isn't what's in it for me, but rather, what good will it do? To put it more explicitly, if I give more money to the Auckland Unitarian Church this year, what elevation of the common good will come from it? If you do a Google search on the meaning of stewardship, as obviously I did, you'll find it's generally defined as, quote, the wise use of God's resources to achieve God's purposes. Rephrasing that in a more UU way, stewardship is the wise use of our collective resources and talents to achieve our collective purposes. A foundational element of good stewardship is wise and responsible management. In one online article I found on a site dedicated to the principles of tithing, we're reminded to think strategically about what we can utilize, about how we can utilize resources for maximum impact. So, what, pray tell, are our resources? Well, for starters, we have this building. It's a great facility and a great location. Through the generosity of donors and the perseverance of key volunteers, this building has received much needed repairs. Our organ has returned from its extended leave of absence, and work continues to make it a safer, more sustainable resource for our community. Then there are our people. Our congregation boasts members with medical, community organizing, information technology, engineering, education, and financial management backgrounds, among others. We have many and varied hobbies and personal interests that we bring to the group. Through our members and our past engagements, particularly Clay's legacy of advocacy and activism, we have our network of relationships with other community organizations. This includes the existing users of our building. But then the question, what more could we be doing with what we have? And yet, how much more could we be doing if we had even more? Later in her 2015 sermon, Reverend Weller asked the congregation to think of the soup kitchen we could run each Sunday, serving hundreds of hungry neighbors. Think of the houses we could build here and the green technology we could help to retrofit our entire area with. Think of the co-housing communities we could build, the Unitarian Universalist preschool we could run, the progressive retreat center we could build, the spiritual direction institute we could create. All of these are actual and real possibilities. There are so many things that we could do. The sky's really the limit. End quote. I propose there's a positive feedback loop we need to get working for us. The more our congregation is doing to visibly and impactfully support and enrich our community, that is, the more obvious it is that we're making a difference, the more contributions we'll receive of time, talent, and treasure. I contend this is because we'll attract and retain more new members, increasing the pool of givers, while simultaneously bolstering the confidence of all of our members that their contributions are doing good, increasing their individual willingness to give. Then, of course, the more contributions we're receiving, the more we can do to support and enrich our community, and so on, and so on, and so on. This leads me at last to the key question and challenge I want to put before you. How do we go about priming that pump? What are the best next things for us to do as a congregation to make a difference in our larger community and let like-minded Aucklanders and Kiwis know we're here and worth being a part of? If we can unlock that particular puzzle, my friends, then as Reverend Weller said, the sky's really the limit. Chris, can I ask you to come extinguish the flames? Give me a moment to unloose my place here. And please say with me the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. For my closing words, I've selected a passage by Michael A. Schuler. If you are proud of this church, become its advocate. If you are concerned for its future, share its message. If its values resonate deep within you, give it a measure of your devotion. This church cannot survive without your faith, your confidence, your enthusiasm. Its destiny, the larger hope, rests in your hands. As we listen to the postlude music, I'd like each of you to quietly reflect on the following questions. What community initiative or initiatives would excite you? And how would we get that started?